U.S. President Donald Trump replied on Twitter the words "Make America Great Again" Thursday morning to a tweet from @ThePlumlinEggs, who had posted a Washington Post article criticizing Trump for regularly targeting African Americans in his Twitter storms. Trump's tweet was immediately perceived as an endorsement, if not a boast, about the notion his attacks on African Americans are part of his strategy to make America great again. Trump has been in a Twitter feud with LeVar Ball, father of the UCLA basketball player Trump helped free from prison after he was caught shoplifting in China. The president has also clashed for months with various players in the NFL for taking a knee during the U.S. national anthem. One Twitter user wrote in response to Trump's tweet, Trump just replied "Make America Great Again" to a tweet by @ThePlumlinEggs accusing him of racist attacks against black people. Holy cow. While another had this to say, "If any of my followers are unconvinced that Trump is racist, imagine if someone obsessively tweeted about Jews like this. We've got more newsletters we think you'll find interesting. Click here, please try again later." And another, "When the dog whistle is actually a bullhorn." Page 2 Michael Karkoc, an alleged former Nazi commander and current U.S. resident living in Minnesota, has contributed thousands of dollars to the Republican National Convention, the Daily Beast reported. Polish war crime prosecutors say they are 100% certain that Karkoc commanded an SS company responsible for liquidating 2 Polish villages, which resulted in the killing of 40 civilians. Poland requested Karkoc's extradition from the U.S. in July and is waiting on a decision. Andrei Karkos, Karkoc's son, told the Daily Beast his father donations were made because he was a lifelong Republican. Michael Karkoc works in his yard in Minneapolis, May 2014. Richard Senatap, he has a picture of Ronald and Nancy Reagan in his bedroom, Karkos told the Daily Beast. In a 2013 exposé, the Associated Press reported that Karkoc lied to immigration officials upon his entry to the U.S. in 1949, claiming he was not enlisted in any military service during World War II. He became a naturalized citizen 10 years later. In federal campaign records, he listed his occupation as a carpenter. We've got more newsletters we think you'll find interesting. Click here, please try again later. After the exposé, Karkoc donated a total of $3,850 to the GOP in 3 separate contributions between September 2013 and May 2014. According to available records, these were his only contributions. The RNC did not respond for comment. The junior Karkos says he assumed his father voted Republican in the 2016 election. When asked to explain why his father felt such an affinity for the Republican Party, Karkos told the Daily Beast that Republicans oppose communists. He added that under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the White House was penetrated by Soviet agents of influence. Karkos believes his father's donations has nothing to do with the accusations that he is a Nazi war criminal, which he called lies and slanders. The Associated Press said in the third paragraph of their original scandalous story slandering my father that the records do not show that he had a direct role in war crimes, he added. The AP report cited a Nazi payroll sheet signed by an SS officer that Karkoc collected his salary as a member of the Ukrainian Self-Defense Legion. In Karkoc's memoir, he says he helped form the UDSL and that he remained a company commander until the end of the war. The report also states that Karkoc and his unit were implicated in suppressing the Warsaw Uprising, an operation to liberate Warsaw from German control which ended with more than 150,000 civilians killed by Germany. At 98, Karkoc lives in a nursing home in Minnesota. Polish prosecutors await his extradition, as age is not a factor when it comes to bringing anyone to justice. Page 3 The Israeli spy who worked to cover up the UAL violence of media mogul Harvey Weinstein is actually 30-year-old Israeli Stella Penn-Pekenak, the Daily Mail claims in a report on Wednesday. Penn, who reportedly worked as an operative for intelligence agency Black Cube, duped actress Rose McGowan into meeting her and disclosing her memoirs. She met with McGowan under the alias Diana Phillip, allegedly a women's rights advocate from London, who worked as an investor at a firm called Rubin Capital Partners. She reportedly met with McGowan multiple times in New York and Los Angeles. Stella Penn-Pekenak, in biography, says Penn immigrated to Israel from Yugoslavia in 1993. She served as an officer in the Israel Air Force and studied acting in Tel Aviv, graduating in 2010 from the Nissan Nativ Acting Studio. Black Cube is a privately held intelligence firm run by former members of the Mossad, the Israeli spy agency. Penn used a different alias, Anna, when she posed as a source to New York reporter Ben Wallace while he was working on a story about Weinstein, the Daily Mail said. "We've got more newsletters we think you'll find interesting. Click here, please try again later." Even after the initial story of Weinstein's myriad UAL assaults broke, Diana Phillip continued to contact McGowan. In an email, the operative wrote, "Hi love, how are you feeling? Just wanted to tell you how brave I think you are." When she heard the news of Diana's false identity, McGowan told The New Yorker, "Oh my God. Reuben Capital. Diana Phillip. No fucking way." The New Yorker reported earlier this week that Weinstein hired business intelligence firms, including Black Cube, to compile psychological profiles of his accusers while digging dirt on their personal histories in an attempt to scuttle reports of his UAL abuse. David Boies, Weinstein's lawyer, offered Black Cube financial incentives for preventing the article's publication and obtaining drafts of McGowan's books. Boies confirmed hiring the firm to The New Yorker. On Tuesday, Israel's Channel 2 reported that former Prime Minister Ehud Barak gave Weinstein information that facilitated his hiring of Black Cube. Black Cube was founded in 2010 by Yanis and Dan Zarellet, who served in an Israeli intelligence unit. Black Cube describes its employees as a select group of veterans of the elite Israeli intelligence community, whose diverse experience in information gathering, analysis, research, and field operations. Most of the firm's business is in supporting legal disputes between large business entities when one side is trying to collect intelligence on the other side in an attempt to win the case. Page 4 to Ephraim O'Sullivan. Lee Harvey Oswald was always Lee, even after he assassinated President John F. Kennedy. Lee was the kid who lived down the street from him in a working-class neighborhood of New Orleans, the classmate who always sat next to him, in alphabetical order, in junior high homeroom. Ephraim, back then still known as Fred, remembered Lee as a loner, a kid he unsuccessfully tried to recruit in high school to the drill team of the Civil Air Patrol, as he would later testify to the Warren Commission that investigated Kennedy's assassination. Oswald carried himself always erect, always gave the impression that he could be marching, that he may be marching, eyes straight ahead, head straight, shoulders back, so he impressed me as the sort of fellow that would really fit well on the drill team, O'Sullivan told the commission. He seemed like he could, well, he even gave the impression that he would make a pretty good leader if he ever got into the squadron, O'Sullivan added. At the time, O'Sullivan was a 26-year-old police detective on the New Orleans Vice Squad, a cop in the city, like his Irish-American father and grandfather before him. File in this November 23, 1963, file photo, surrounded by detectives, Lee Harvey Oswald talks to the media as he is led down a corridor of the Dallas police station for another round of questioning in CAP ahead of the expected release Thursday of thousands of pages of classified documents related to the assassination. Area O'Sullivan, a longtime journalist in Israel, said his father agreed with the commission that Oswald alone shot Kennedy, but he thought there might be more to the story connected to the mafia. He always thought the assassination of Kennedy and Martin Luther King crossed paths in New Orleans, Area O'Sullivan told Haaretz. He could never elaborate on it, but he said the mafia was strong here, and it was part of his job to investigate the mafia. He thought there was some kind of ties to the killings with the mafia, but he couldn't prove anything. Ephraim O'Sullivan is a police officer in New Orleans, June 1961. Courtesy of Area O'Sullivan. In any case, testifying before the Warren Commission was only one milestone in Ephraim O'Sullivan's extraordinary life. A Catholic who grew up not knowing any Jews, he converted to Judaism in 1967, caught the Zionist bug, moved his family to Israel on the third day of the 1973 Yom Kippur War, and became a policeman in Jerusalem. According to his son, he helped out the Mossad on occasion. The father was someone who in his policing days in New Orleans helped foil a plot to assassinate President Richard M. Nixon, arrested a KKK leader en route to planting a bomb at the home of the local head of the Anti-Defamation League, was targeted by the KKK for his work trying to break up that group in New Orleans, and in 1973 was shot in the arm by a young black man targeting white police officers from a hotel rooftop. His best friend, also an officer, and 4 other policemen and 4 civilians were killed by the gunman. An Uzi assault rifle that O'Sullivan had helped procure from Israeli contacts was the weapon that killed the man, said Area O'Sullivan. Ephraim O'Sullivan volunteering during the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Courtesy of Area O'Sullivan, he survived and said, "I am taking my family to a safe country," and he moved us to Israel, the younger O'Sullivan said. He had visited Israel once before, on a United Jewish Appeal trip with his synagogue the year before. When he couldn't afford the trip on his cop's salary, the community pitched in and paid for his ticket. Judaism and a DJ. According to The Sun, Ephraim's path to Judaism started in some ways the night he heard Harry Belafonte's version of Havin' Aliyah on the jukebox at a New Orleans bar. He mistook the tune for a Gaelic, phoned a local DJ he knew and asked him to play the on the radio. When the DJ put it on the air, he introduced it saying, "Here's a nice Jewish tune for a nice Jewish cop, Fred O'Sullivan." According to his son, O'Sullivan, listening in, was confused and angry. He asked why his DJ friend slurred him by calling him a Jew. When he heard it was a Jewish and was sung in Israel, a country he barely knew existed, he decided to buy the album and eventually started reading up on Israel and Judaism. One fall, for extra money he worked helping direct traffic at a local Reform synagogue over Rosh Hashanah. The rabbi asked him if he could come back for Yom Kippur. O'Sullivan said he would if he was allowed to use the synagogue library. By 1967, O'Sullivan had converted to Judaism with that same rabbi. Ephraim O'Sullivan at his desk as intelligence chief of the New Orleans Police Department in 1973, the year he immigrated to Israel with his family. Courtesy of Area O'Sullivan. As Area O'Sullivan tells it, when Ephraim decided to convert, his father told him he would rather his son marry a black person than become a Jew, though he used a derogatory term for black person. Area recounted that his father, who had grown up frustrated by the Catholic nuns who told him to stop asking so many questions, used to say, "I was a Jew my whole life but just didn't know it." Ephraim and his father did not speak for a couple of years, but eventually reconciled. On the family's flight to Israel to immigrate as the Yom Kippur War raged in October 1973, the O'Sullivans were the only family on the plane. The others were young men flying back to join the war as reservists. "Everyone looked at us like we were nuts," said Area O'Sullivan, who was 12 at the time. They landed during a blackout and were taken directly to a bomb shelter at an immigrant absorption center outside Jerusalem. Adjusting to life in Israel during wartime and its aftermath was a challenge for the then 37-year-old Ephraim O'Sullivan. Some of the people who had promised him work were killed in the war, and although he did eventually begin a job as a policeman in Jerusalem, his Hebrew was poor and the family moved back to the United States a year and a half later. Area O'Sullivan with the photo of his father, October 2017. Emil Salman. Area O'Sullivan said that after his father died in 2005 at 67 from the complications of diabetes, he went through his papers. Among them, along with a letter from Jacqueline Kennedy thanking him for testifying before the Warren Commission, were handwritten letters thanking him for his service from Menachem Begin and Yitzhak Rabin. There was also a Lebanese driver's license with his photo but a different name. When Area had first seen it years before and asked his father about it, his father told him he was better off not knowing. Area said his father helped out the Mossad but would not elaborate. Jewish Southern drawl. Back in the United States, Ephraim O'Sullivan first found work as the police chief in the small Cajun town of Jennings, Louisiana, where whites lived on one side of town and blacks on the other. For young Area O'Sullivan it was culture shock after living in Jerusalem. His father there became the first Jewish police chief, not just in town, but in all Louisiana. When people had trouble pronouncing his first name, he'd ask them, "How do you like your eggs in the morning?" Ephraim O'Sullivan when he served as police chief in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, 1980. Courtesy of Area O'Sullivan. Ephraim O'Sullivan visiting Israel in 1984. Courtesy of Area O'Sullivan. Ephraim, they would usually reply, so he told them, "That's how you say Ephraim." Later he was chief of police in Ocean Springs, a town on the Mississippi coast near Biloxi. He also made history there as the first Jewish chief of police in Mississippi. He never returned to Israel to live but continued to love it there and would often visit his son, who returned to live in Israel in his 20s and raised his family there. Meanwhile, his New Orleans detective days remained a source of great stories. One area Sullivan remembers well was his father's last night of duty as a detective in the city before immigrating to Israel. It was Rosh Hashanah Eve, September 1973, and his father had received a tip from the FBI that a noted Klansman named Byron de LeBeckwith was heading to the city to plant a bomb at the home of the New Orleans ADL chief, Adolph Butnick. O'Sullivan and his partner stopped de LeBeckwith before he could reach the house and arrested him. The invitation to Ephraim O'Sullivan to testify to the Warren Commission. Courtesy of Area O'Sullivan. The envelope of the invitation to Ephraim O'Sullivan to testify to the Warren Commission. Courtesy of Area O'Sullivan, and it was in the backseat of their police car that the handcuffed de LeBeckwith confessed, without prompting, that he was the man who assassinated civil rights icon Medgar Evers 10 years earlier, something he had denied in 2 mistrials. In 1994 he was finally convicted of Evers' murder. O'Sullivan's written testimony was used in the trial. According to Area O'Sullivan, the Kennedy assassination was the one story that never went away for his father. Over the years, conspiracy theorists would try to seek him out, in part for his testimony about David Ferry, a New Orleans man who his father and Oswald knew and who may have had ties with the mafia. Ephraim O'Sullivan had first met Ferry during his Civil Air Patrol days, where Ferry was like a scoutmaster of the group. In his Warren Commission testimony, O'Sullivan told the investigators that he and another New Orleans detective went to examine Ferry's plane at the New Orleans airport soon after the assassination. "We wanted to check it to see if it was flyable," he said, to see possibly whether he had been flying it lately, with the thought that he may have transported Oswald to Dallas. "We found the plane, but his plane was not in flyable condition. It had flat tires, instruments missing, needed a paint job." We also checked to see if he had rented an aircraft from any of the companies out there, and one company in particular said they wouldn't rent him an airplane. So that scouting mission appeared to be a bust, but Ferry was later mentioned as a suspect in the assassination by Jim Garrison, the New Orleans district attorney at the time. In Oliver Stone's JFK, Ferry was played by Joe Pesci. Area O'Sullivan said his father would have probably gotten a kick out of the release of the long classified documents related to the Kennedy assassination. He would always say, "People will always believe in conspiracy theories. There's nothing you can do," Area O'Sullivan said, adding that his father had his own unproved theories of involvement by the mafia, and possibly Fidel Castro. "It's the story that want